Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland. It's ESVN OT, where Bradley and I will be giving our Week 6 locks. And people joke in the comments, oh, they're not locks. Both are 7-1. It's what they're called. Okay? But we're also going to dive into the explosive allegations and extensive article done in ESPN about Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Commanders. And we'll talk a little bit of hockey and take a look at the odds for the Stanley Cup and where the best value is. And I am going to be making a pick that might come back to haunt me in terms of just juju and like luck and, you know, I don't know. I get a little stitious, as they say, when it comes to my own home team. So
just a little, not super.
Just a little, yeah. I heard Eli Manning say that in a New York Giants documentary about the 2007-2008 season when I was a kid. And then I realized, like, oh, I think that's a quote from The Office that he just repurposed from that for the
epic
documentary, right? Anyway, hello, Bradley.
Hello.
Oh, there he goes, wearing a New York Knicks shirt.
Yeah, baby, it's gotta be the Knicks, baby.
I mean, soon we're going to be having an NBA guest on. Whoa, wow. You're feeling it.
That's right.
You got Brunson
I'm hungover again.
You don't need to tell them every time.
I can't stop.
But I mean, you had a birthday dinner, so that's
yeah. Wasn't even my birthday.
Well, someone else's, so it's still the same thing. So we'll be diving into the NBA next week on our episode, which I'm really pumped about. Actually, we have a special guest for that. But before we get into our picks, reveal what our punishment is going to be for whoever loses this bet, I want to talk a bit about the Dan Snyder allegations. So ESPN had a monster, very long article with 3 writers on it contributing to this story about Dan Snyder, the owner, the much maligned rightfully so, owner of the Washington Commanders. This is the guy who refused to change the racist logo and name of the Washington franchise for decades, said that it would never happen until he was forced to, and who has been undergoing a congressional investigation due to the misconduct within the organization, who has allegations against himself for workplace misconduct and sexual harassment, as well as just generally skeevy things that you hear about in terms of gouging season ticket holders and cheaping out on facilities. So Jalen Hurts almost got injured at the stadium, at the Washington Commanders Stadium, because of the cheap materials that he uses in that stadium. So just a generally terrible guy. And people have known this for a while, and it's gotten to a point that he's had so much scandal that he's a stain on the shield. There are tons of terrible rich people in the business of the NFL. The billionaires that own the teams, I would suffice to say that there are pretty much no good billionaires. The Maras and the Rooneys, they've inherited the team, so it's a little bit different, but yeah, it takes a lot to be the worst guy in this league of 32 owners, the worst person, I should say. But Dan Snyder certainly takes the cake. This is how this article opens up here. Dan Snyder does this thing when he feels cornered, say those who know him well. He paces in a hotel suite or on his super yacht or at Riverview, his $48 million Virginia estate. Cradling a drink in one hand, he tells members of his inner circle about the dirt he has accumulated on fellow owners, coaches, executives, and even his own employees. All the stuff he's learned from other sources, including private investigative firms. He never says exactly what he knows, only that in his 23 years as owner of the Washington Commanders, he knows a lot. And that in the zero-sum world of billionaires, this is how you survive. Snyder recently told a close associate that he gathered enough secrets to, quote, blow up several NFL owners, the league office, and even Commissioner Roger Goodell. They can't F with me, he has said privately. Senior team executives and confidants have heard him say it since he was considered merely one of the worst. Senior team executives and confidants have heard him say it since he was considered merely one of the worst owners in sports. Now he's facing investigations on multiple fronts and running out of high-powered allies. He alludes more than ever to his dirty work. Snyder, now 57 years old, has told associates he will not lose his beloved franchise without a fight that would end with multiple casualties. The NFL is a mafia, he recently told an associate. All the owners hate each other. That's not true, one veteran owner says. All the owners hate Dan. To me, when they say one veteran owner, this screams John Mara to me. But you also hear in this article how him and Jerry Jones were buddies. Of course, birds of a feather, and how that relationship was recently soured.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe it would be Jerry Jones saying that, but I guess you're right. In terms of odious people, Jones might be one of the biggest ones as well. So he also probably likes to have like this like leech and kind of cockroach guy on his side anyways, Well,
and also the dirty secret is that until he became such an embarrassment for the league and was threatening other owners with blackmail, they didn't really mind him being around. They might find him unseemly, and he doesn't seem to have any friends in the billionaire club of the 32 people who own these franchises, but he's a bad owner too, and it's an easy win against Washington for the most part in the 23 years since he's owned the team.
He essentially hits every mark on the bingo card. He presides over a racist, sexist administration. He's anti-labor. He's a cheapskate. He's belligerent. He's litigious. It's like you said. It is a high bar to clear to be the shittiest guy among the 32 NFL team owners. But Snyder has a really great case for it.
Arguably the worst owner in professional sports, period, in the United States or North America.
Maybe him and James Dolan.
I mean, the Blackhawks owner.
Oh yes, right.
Is pretty bad, but in terms of like just the litany, at least under his watch, they were at least successful as a franchise. So the one thing you're supposed to do when you're the owner of a team is lead your team to prosperity and to win a championship. And he did that, but Snyder certainly not. I mean, I
believe he's won 2 playoff games since he took over. I believe the team has won 2 playoff games since he took over. In like 2002 or maybe a few years earlier. So it's been about 23 seasons and he has 2 playoff wins to show for it.
And this is not a franchise that was used to losing. Like they had Super Bowl championships. Joe
Theismann?
Yeah, Joe Theismann. We understand that we know that story, and I believe that the Washington Commanders were the first NFL well, they were not the Commanders at this time, but Washington was the first NFL franchise to have a black starting quarterback win the Super Bowl. So they have Super Bowl trophies, but they're a shadow of themselves under Snyder. Something has to give, possibly as soon as the NFL League meetings in New York on Tuesday. Many owners and top league executives tell ESPN they would like to see Snyder removed as an owner. It would clean the slate for a storied team and a cherished fan base and reignite the pursuit for a desperately needed stadium. But there would be a price. And a reminder that, yes, the franchise has had fans, but I personally know Ben Mankiewicz, my friend from over at TYT who grew up in the Washington area, was a Washington fan growing up, just can't do it anymore. Quit being a fan of the team because of Dan Snyder as an owner. And based on the butts that you don't see in seats, based on how empty that stadium is, my guess is he's not alone, because this guy's so loathsome that he makes it impossible to root for him. And I mean, look, I root for 2 teams owned by James Dolan, and I can still stomach it because at least he spends on behalf of the franchise and whatever. And a lot of these billionaires are bad people. This guy's that bad.
Oh, and I forgot to mention another thing to add to the bad owner bingo card is the casual association with scummy Republican politicians to get your stadiums built.
Are you shocked to hear that he's a Trump donor and supporter?
Oh, not at all. And I'm also not shocked that he's cozying up to Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin to help him pressure the Virginia state legislature, or to have already pressured the Virginia state legislature to establish a stadium authority under the state's control to commission a plan for a stadium in Virginia, so they can leave the stadium that they hate in Landover, Orlando,
In Maryland.
In Maryland, they're the
Right.
stadium that they currently have in Maryland. So that's also on the docket for Glenn
And of
Youngkin.
course on the
besides,
taxpayers.
right?
Yeah.
That's also on the docket for Glenn Youngkin bilking taxpayers with the cooperation of Dan Snyder, as well as banning gender pronouns in schools and CRT in schools. So good platform for that administration over there.
According to more than 30 owners, league and team executives, lawyers, and current former Commanders employees interviewed by ESPN, this is expansive. The fear of reprisal that Snyder has instilled in his franchise, poisoning it on the field and off, has expanded to some of his fellow owners. Multiple owners and league and team sources say they've been told that Snyder instructed his law firms to hire private investigators to look into other owners and Goodell. One source was told by Snyder directly that he has, quote, dirt on Jerry Jones, a team source told ESPN. Again, this is the other scumbag that's been kind of mentoring him throughout this. Cowboys owner. Though the nature of the information was unclear. Another source confirmed that Snyder has told a confidant that he has, quote, a file on Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner who has served as Snyder's friend, mentor, and longtime firewall of support. And that's crumbling as well. I'm kind of skipping around here, so you don't even need to worry about it, Bradley. The potential for mutually assured destruction might help explain why Snyder has survived years of scandal, or it might merely reveal that Snyder is running out of options. He is under attack from multiple fronts. His team and employees and his own conduct has been investigated by Congress, the DEA, and the league office twice. At least 24 owners are required to force Snyder to sell his team, a fate that he has told multiple sources he will never accept, meaning he's going to tie the NFL up in litigation to make sure that this doesn't happen. An associate who has met with Snyder multiple times recently says Snyder has become paranoid about owners and league office executives and about former employees breaking their non-disclosure agreements and telling investigators and reporters what they know. Some more quotes about how Snyder's lost Jerry, his one friend in this situation. There is growing consensus around the league that despite news releases to the contrary, the Commanders have struggled to establish a more inclusive culture. And sources told ESPN they wonder if Jason Wright, the team's president and the first black man in NFL history to hold that title, has true authority to fix the team. Current and former employees say Snyder is still far more involved in running the club than most realize, imploring football decision makers last March to trade for quarterback Carson Wentz, despite a deal he made with Goodell in July 2021, when he was also fined $10 million to give up day-to-day management to his wife, Tanya.
Hey, Emma, a quick question. Do you know where Jason Wright used to work before he became general manager of the Washington Commanders? A little company called McKinsey.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we want to run the team like a business, huh?
Yeah, I guess they do.
I wonder if he has some underpaid charges making PowerPoint decks to be like, how can we make people sit on beds of nails at the games to make the construction costs for seats a little bit cheaper?
Yeah, I mean, hey, consulting, right? That's what he's consulted there. That's what his role is as team president, right? Not to make football decisions. If Dan Snyder's pushing them to trade for Carson Wentz, which has not worked out well, and everyone knew it wouldn't work out well, and he's not even supposed to be involved in the team. He's supposed to be suspended, and his wife is supposed to be handling these things. Like, he is so arrogant. He doesn't give a shit. Right? That league, he said, this is my team, this is how I'm going to run it. This is the problem when you have a collection of billionaire owners. They feel like they're accountable to nobody, and so then you're unable to actually hold them accountable. So, I mean, this guy's...
Yeah, Jason Wright's probably more like a chief cover-up consultant.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, like how can we just continue to cover the boss man's ass, basically,
and cover up in the sense that they hired him when they were facing
like allegations of racial discrimination.
Racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think, and it's sad because I think I don't necessarily know for sure. Obviously, I'm not gonna insinuate necessarily that it's intentional on the part of either Wright or head coach Ron Rivera, but it just definitely seems like the way that those two have been trotted out in certain ways is kind of like tokenizing by Snyder. Hey, the head front office person right now is a black man. We have a Hispanic head coach. Everybody loves Ron Rivera. He has a really inspiring story. He fought cancer. Like, it just sometimes seems like a little bit of almost like proverbially like whitewashing the culture and the stink of Dan Snyder.
Yeah, and of course, but the fish rots, especially when this fish is this stinky. It rots from the head down.
And I think that's the other central point is that it doesn't even matter. Like it's not enough. Like it's just nothing will be enough. Like
and also because Snyder's more involved than he pretends to be.
100%.
And so that's why he's making horrible moves like trading for Carson Wentz. It's just there's more details in the story, and I'd really encourage people to check it out. But to me, this is clear that the other owners are speaking to the media. They're trying to get out ahead of this when he eventually tries to use blackmail on them. He's already used it against John Gruden. Allegedly, people heavily speculate that he was the one who leaked those racist emails sent by John Gruden to the press in retaliation for, past misgivings. And look, the Gruden family has a tough history with the Snyder organization as well. So we'll see. I think that this means that it's getting closer and closer to a coup d'etat for Snyder, but that's not going to be easy given his proclivity and given his, he seems to be unresponsive to the money thing. Like Bezos could buy the Commanders in a second and make them profitable and actually upgrade their facilities and ensure that that there are fans that return. But money doesn't seem to be an object for this guy because he's already got a ton of money and he wants to give it to his kids. And
as we've been saying before, with these owners with either dynastic family wealth or wealth from any other source who own a team, at some point it just becomes an enormous passive income vehicle.
Yes.
The Commanders could literally go. It's almost like a paraphrase of Jay-Z's famous line, the Nets could go 0 for 82 and that shit would still be gravy. Like it would be the same thing for the Commanders for Dan Snyder. Like they could literally not win another football game and it would not matter to him in terms of ownership. It wouldn't actually sink the value of an NFL team right now.
Yeah, because a rising tide lifts all boats, and all the other franchises are doing so well.
Exactly. The revenue sharing will keep him alive no matter what, essentially.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And if we'll recall, you said speaking to the Gruden-Snyder divide, for people who might not remember, former Commanders head coach Jay Gruden, John Gruden's brother, was unceremoniously fired after the team was not performing well. And famously, general manager Bruce Allen at the time had Jay Gruden come to the facilities at 6 a.m. on a Monday being like, hey, man, you're fired. Sorry.
Yeah, right. You're right.
Thanks for coming in so early. You're fired.
And Bruce Allen, by the way, part of the most toxic elements of the workplace culture, caught harassing people.
Harassing women. He was allegedly, drunk in the office. I think he had a few he had some issues with alcohol, things like that, and literally it was like, hey Jay, we have an early morning graveyard shift meeting, but it's time to go.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Right. And by the way, I don't think Ron Rivera is I honestly, I understand the fish rots from the head down, but the fact that he was hired and the fact that he threw his quarterback under the bus in public recently,
that's always a sign of discontent. It is very.
It was wrong of him, honestly. To me,
anyone,
you never talk about your players in the media,
even if it's Carson, absolutely. Even if it's Carson Wentz who's not performing well, I just think there's no worse way to telegraph to your team that you don't really believe in them than actively kind of scapegoating another player.
Right. All right, I just realized we spent 20 minutes on that. It was juicy, but
couldn't help ourselves.
All right, we got to do the Stanley Cup odds, and then we'll do our picks and reveal our punishments here. So I mentioned, look, the NFL is the sport I know the most about for sure, but I do know hockey decently, and I'm really excited for this season. So I want to break down some of the odds going into this year for the Stanley Cup. These are the odds about who is going to win the Stanley Cup, courtesy of DraftKings, which is, hey, the sports book that I use, and hey, maybe they'll sponsor the show eventually. Fingers crossed, please.
Is anyone watching? Is the DraftKing watching?
King, good draft, sire. Sire, please.
His Royal Highness DraftKing, JB Smoove, or whatever's in their commercials.
No. He's Caesar.
Yeah, sorry. That's we're gonna get demonetized.
Scratch that, please. Good sire. Sir Bradley does not knoweth who the truest king in the land is, and that is Sir Draft. Anyway. putting that aside,
Anyway.
these are the odds for the Stanley Cup, and I find just a few of these particularly juicy. Now, look, the Avs are the defending champs. They are the favorites. That makes sense. Like, I would take Cale Makar over any player in the NHL
He's
outside
so
of
good.
Connor McDavid.
He's so good.
Like, I'd take him over Nathan McKinnon. I'd take him over Austin Matthews. I would take him over anybody, really. Like, that is the kind of guy that he is in terms of the role that he plays on the power play and how he is a lockdown defender. It doesn't get much better than Cale Makar. So I understand why they're the favorites, of course. It's just really difficult to repeat, right? I mean, they don't have the center depth that they had last year, obviously with Bradley's guy, Nazem Kadri going to Calgary.
Yeah, my boy.
Going not to the Islanders in a hilarious turn of events. Going to Calgary, where look, I think Calgary. I don't think they're going to win the cup, but I don't think the drop off for them is going to be as significant as, of course, you thought it would be when they lost Johnny Hockey and Tkachuk. So,
and I think honestly, that's probably a testament to them being
Tkachuk.
seventh here or tied for seventh here at plus 1,500. Is that while we initially, like you said, with Gaudreau and Tkachuk getting let go or getting traded, that the Flames were gonna, be a like a cellar dweller or bottom of the basement type team. But as we were discussing this earlier this week, like the combo of signing Kadri as well as getting Jonathan Huberdeau in that trade with the Panthers for Tkachuk, I think they were able to retool without losing as much as maybe we thought they were going to lose.
Yeah, they really made chicken salad out of chicken shit in
Totally.
this situation, and I would be thrilled, given how, if I were a Flames fan, how depressed I would have felt with those departures, with the return that they got, and how they kind of recalibrated. So, look. The Flames, I don't think they'll have enough offense to win the cup without those guys, but I'm not counting them out as being, in the Final Four.
No, for
sure. So, the reason I can't look, this is all about value here, right? So the Avalanche being favorites makes sense. Fade the Leafs. Are we serious here? They have the second best odds to win the Stanley Cup.
That is just a recipe for disappointment.
Hilarious.
Like there is
that's markets driving.
Absolutely, no question,
the numbers
without
there.
question. There is zero way to feasibly take that bet or respect that line until the Toronto Maple Leafs can prove they cannot suffer a uniquely back-breaking choke job every single time they make the playoffs.
And they don't have any goaltending not that I thought Jack Campbell was overrated the whole year, and I think he'll be overrated as an Oiler. Although maybe anything's better than relying on Mike Smith.
Well, that's right for the Oilers. From the Oilers' perspective, I imagine even if they can get pretty competent play from Campbell, like you said, not relying on 41-year-old Mike Smith to be in goal for some of the most momentous games of the season would do well for them. I'm sure, especially with that's partially why for me I feel pretty good about the plus 1,500 with the Oilers.
Interesting.
It's low enough where it's not a slam dunk, or it's not too low in terms of I would be more concerned if it was even below plus 1,000. But I don't know, like McDavid, Draisaitl, if they can stay healthy, and now they have a younger goalie. I don't know. I think
talk about choke artists.
They do have
the best player in the world.
That's I think the why. Given the supporting pieces, given the age reduction in goalie, I'm just thinking McDavid could just make that line interesting or kind of compelling.
So yeah, I agree with you. Actually, I shouldn't say I agree with you. You convinced me that there is decent value there. But I'm gonna be real with you guys. I placed a wager today on the New York Rangers. Look. All right. Hey, I'm a Rangers fan. I've been open about this, and normally I really try to avoid betting on my teams. You'll see that later in our NFL Week 6 segment, because I thought the Giants plus 6 at home against the Baltimore Ravens was actually a pretty decent bet, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So the Rangers, I think they've improved. They've lost Ryan Strome, who I think is a net negative for the team, in that he was holding back the second line with Artemi Panarin because he can't hit a net to save his life, and he just did not have the talent, despite being a good team guy, whatever, to keep up with Artemi Panarin on that line. And I know they had a love affair, like they liked each other, they were really good friends, but it was good that we let him go to Anaheim.
I think that's a great point in the sense of there was like a clear a talent discrepancy on that line. It's like, if to get the most out of Panarin, you want an upgrade from Strome,
and that's Trocheck,
right? Absolutely. Like
who
Vincent
now
Trocheck
can win face-offs, which they haven't been able to do for years.
Right.
And I know that's kind of like, oh, face-offs, a little bit of old hockey head stuff, but I mean, it still is important, especially when you're taking the face-off in your offensive zone on a power play, for example.
That's the thing, though. Is I'm with you. I don't think that's necessarily an empty stat or anything like that. Only because, like you're saying, it's the ability to set up possessions. It's the ability to set up your scheme. It's the ability to start off with not only establishing your pace of play, but establishing possession. So hockey to me is a lot like soccer. Like, time of possession is so important. Just having the puck or having the ball at your feet or at your stick is just so crucial. And like, I think faceoffs give an advantage, especially in a team that has not had that advantage before. Being able to gain that, I think, will be something that's like worth watching.
Yeah, and so look, Trocheck will be an upgrade there. They just have to build chemistry.
Absolutely.
It depends on, the Rangers' biggest weakness right now is a young third line defensive pairing and right wing in general. Now, I really hope that Gallant keeps Capo Caco on the first line with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, because I just think if you let him cook there, then he develops. Don't yank him quickly to put him back on the kid line.
I think my biggest problem, this happens in hockey a lot, but it also happens being across sports, is just I feel like, especially given the way, the coaching carousel can spin in every sport, teams are so much less inclined to give young guys run if they don't perform right away.
Yeah.
And I know this is Kako's third season?
Yes.
But that I think third or fourth, but he's still
time is really fun. I can't remember.
But he's still, even at any rate, so young that I just don't, he's
21 years old.
He's 21 years old. He has such clear physical tools, and he's a smart player. I completely agree. I just don't think it would be right to think, oh, he's not playing well right in the middle of the in the beginning of the season. Let's ruin his confidence and not give him regular season playing time.
Yeah, and so to me, like, look, I just think Trocheck is a more of an upgrade on Ryan Strome than people are realizing, because they don't watch the games and see how Strome really missed a ton of opportunities. And I think they're going a lot of statistics, which were he benefited a lot from having Artemi Panarin on his line. So if they're able to figure out the right wing spot, if they're able to slide Lafreniere up, and if perhaps Artemi can play on the right, I know that Lafreniere prefers to play on the left, and that's why he's still on the third line. If those pieces round out and they're able to figure it out, having Filipino on your third line and Barclay Goodrow, the team is deep. The team is really deep.
Goodrow is a great depth piece.
I mean, they overpaid for him with the term. I understand that. And then you have one of the two best goaltenders in the league. And
absolutely,
it's not really close.
No, oh my gosh, no, it's not close.
Between those two at the top, Vasilevsky and Shesterkin.
Yeah.
Those two are, and they just faced off, and
it's a fun matchup, those two.
And the Rangers got the best of them. Yeah,
Zibanejad had a beautiful goal to start off, and then obviously I'm not to give him too much credit.
He's usually a slow starter, and he went, it was like a shorty.
The handle, the
so
deke,
good.
it was just beautiful. It was such a nice goal. I watched it like 5 times, and then also, but I mean, to give credit, of course, to Stamkos had just like a one-timer, just rocketed past Shesterkin. That's going to be a fun matchup. Unfortunately, as it was last season too, it's going to be a fun matchup all year, though.
Yeah, and look, I'm not even biased here. The Lightning plus 1,200. They've made the Stanley Cup 3 years in a row. Why are they, one of the what's all right? Can you just put that back up really quickly? Yeah, because I think they're more likely to win the Cup than the Hurricanes. I think they're more likely to win the Cup than the Panthers and the Leafs.
Yeah, it's giving a lot of credence to teams that have not been that successful in the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, of course, I think the Panthers are still good and still great. Obviously, President's Cup winners last year.
And they have Tkachuk now.
And they have Tkachuk. Adding Tkachuk,
never say it. Yeah.
Adding Tkachuk is obviously going to just make their team, much better. and give them more depth. Obviously, same thing. I mean, the Canes are still a great team as well. I would go with recency in terms of playoff success over the freaking Leafs at plus 700.
Oh yeah,
I would switch the Lightning and the Leafs here in a heartbeat.
Oh,
if I were the odds
100%.
makers here.
I mean, and I'd put the Rangers. The reason I place this bet on the Rangers is because I think the Rangers were just in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Absolutely.
The Rangers have depth at the places where you need to have them, and they have one of the two best goaltenders in the league, and they have a very good coach. He's not an elite coach, but this is a league where he's right now Barry Trotz is unemployed. Like they have there's no concept of who's a good coach.
No,
and
100%.
who isn't. So.
And also just to say about Gallant, I mean, Gallant's the guy who took an expansion team to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good coach. I mean,
speaking of that expansion team, can we just put those odds back up one more time? They're my dark horse.
I was thinking about it too. I was kind of low on them last year because I was like, I thought they were going to be so much better, and they were sort of underwhelming. Like they were kind of on the cusp of the playoff picture.
But Eichel was not himself.
That's the thing, though. I think maybe a season of healthy Eichel with everybody else who they have. This I can't imagine that the Knights won't be a really fun and kind of formidable team to watch this year.
The Kings, I don't think they'll win the Stanley Cup, but it's not. They're going to be a fun team.
Plus 2,500, plus 2,500 for the Knights, and plus 3,500 for the Preds and the Kings. That's not bad action either.
Yeah,
I think the Preds could be a little frisky this year.
I mean, fade the Bruins. I'm sorry,
hate the Bruins,
which is fun to say.
I hate the Bruins. Sorry, homerism. Excuse me.
Bradley's a Devils fan, and they are not in the top 14 that I could put on.
Yeah,
that
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, speaking of the Lightning and the Devils together, I think the Lightning were. I think that maybe the Devils overpaid a bit for Palat. Like, I think maybe he's the best years are a bit behind him.
Well, because remind me, how old is he again?
He's not that young, and they gave him term. So Andre Palat.
Yeah, he's 31. Jesus Christ. Okay, yep.
And let me just see what that contract looks
we
like.
Love to give guys on the raw.
Okay, 5-year, $30 million.
Yeah, which is not so bad, but I think it's the years. It's not the money.
Yeah.
I mean, into his age 36 season, I don't know. It's
but the cap is going up by $1 million.
Yes, it's raining dollars in the NHL.
So those are the things I think you fade. I fade the Bruins. I fade the Penguins too. I just think they're
I agree. With Marchand. Wait, sorry. Did Marchand retire? Is Marchand still coming out? No. Sorry, excuse me. Chara retired. Chara has retired, but Chara's not even on the Bruins anymore.
Yeah.
I agree, though. I don't know. They did not impress.
They
did not impress. I thought they were going to be more of a contender in the playoffs last year. They have some obviously great players. I mean, Pasternak's so good, and
yes. But they're old now.
But even Marchand obviously. Marchand is one of those like unique combos of being such an asshole, but like what leads him to maintain relevance and maintain cachet is that he's just also a fantastic player.
He's so good. It's like Tom Wilson, right?
Exactly.
Although Tom Wilson's an actually like psychopath.
He's a real So which weird, of course, endears him to Caps fans. But
don't get me started on that. That's
I agree
most
with
toxic thing in hockey.
Oh, no question. Like you love the guy who just like mercilessly beats up other guys like with impunity, basically,
and is dirty.
Yeah, and does dirty hits and stuff like that. Yeah. The Bruins, though, to that point, I agree that core is aging. It's not getting any younger. Marchand and Pasternak and is Krejci's still there, I believe.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and he's not good. I wouldn't say he's getting any younger either. I think that just the core is aging a little bit, so I agree. Plus 2,500 is fine. I'm more excited by Rangers plus 2,000 or Oilers plus 1,500 or even Kings or Preds at a longer shot than Bruins or Penguins in the middle of that pack.
Right. I just feel like Bruins, Penguins, it's a little name recognition at this point, and I just don't think that they have the guys and the youth and the legs that they need to actually win the cup this year. I feel fairly agnostic about the Wild. I don't necessarily... in fact, I'd probably fade them. I like to watch the Wild because I like to bet on hockey sometimes, and they score a lot, so they're usually pretty easy on the over. But,
No, I love them too.
Flurry doesn't excite me.
I just think they're a little bit away. I think they're a step away.
Yeah.
Like, I think
they need more than Kaprizov.
Right. I think Kaprizov is fantastic. I love watching him. But speaking of aging core, and those Parise and Suter contracts were not what they were supposed to be for them. They didn't end up manifesting themselves 8 years ago when they basically vested.
Zuccarello, love him forever, is playing at a high level still, but I don't think he's playing at a high enough level for them to win the Stanley Cup. So those are just my thoughts about how. I mean, I saw some people putting the Islanders as a long shot place.
No.
So no,
not
happening.
No.
I think the whole Atlantic, the whole division has kind of dropped off, except for the Rangers and the Canes, honestly.
And just to be clear here, just to confirm what I was asking before, Krejci's still on the team on the Bruins. He's 36.
The Metro, not the Atlantic. But sorry.
Krejci's 36, and Marchand is. Marchand's 34. And I mean, Pasternak is full 10 years younger than Krejci. He's 26. But still, the guys you're relying on still, I mean, that's two older players. That's two guys getting pretty long in the tooth and not getting any younger. And the same thing I think goes for the Wild with Parise and Suter.
Yeah, agreed. All right, with that said, we're going to turn to our locks. Let's tell them, Bradley, what we decided on, because we were trying to figure out what our punishment was going to be or what our prize would be for whoever loses this season-long competition between the two of us. And the fact that we have this these added stakes had me stressing about my picks earlier. My third pick, I was deciding between 4 different lines. I just had no idea what I was doing, and I was getting...
Yeah, no, it was a little stressful.
I was sweaty thinking about it.
It was getting tense in here.
Because Zeke Gonzalez, friend of the show, suggested something that I think we're going to go with, because this was the thing I had the most
Zeke
problem
is just coming
with.
through with the good suggestions. He's the source of the ESVN OT name.
Yeah.
And now we're going with Zeke's punishment. Thank you, Zeke.
Thank you, Zeke. Because I was like, okay, I'm fine wearing a Cowboys jersey on air for a week by itself, because I was able to stomach that. But what I'm not able to stomach is this suggestion from Zeke that we're going to have some of, quote, Russ's cooking at
We're gonna have a let Russ cook meal.
Meaning we're going to eat a smattering of
our least favorite
foods, and we'll film it for you guys.
And so mine will most likely be either a raw red onion.
I love red onions.
And a raw green or orange bell pepper.
These are things I like.
Oh,
we have different tastes.
Hate. The texture, the taste, the crunch. Ah!
All right. Mine's going to be a smelly cheese.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'm going to throw up.
A camembert.
And beets. Beets.
Aha!
I hate
we're going to
beets.
make a beet and cheese dish.
Oh! I don't even know how that's going to go. That's going to be really, really bad.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Or something.
Let them eat cheese.
Like a string cheese or
Ooh, you weren't a string cheese apologist.
I don't eat cheese. I don't like cheese.
So you don't eat it at all.
Well, I'll have a little bit if it's not overwhelming. Something like a Domino's pizza where it's way too much cheese and not much sauce. I really can't eat that.
I love Domino's.
But I love a pizza slice if it's really saucy and has cheese and it doesn't taste that much.
So you're do you avoid pizza sometimes?
It depends on the type. No, I mean, if it's regular standard pizza, I'm fine with it. I used to, as a kid, take the cheese off, and I just have the sauce and the bread.
Eating oven baked bread.
But
with
I've
crust.
gotten better, and if I have a Caesar salad, right, I'm fine with some Parmesan on it. But the smellier the cheese, the faker the cheese. If it's cheese whiz, I'm drawing the line at cheese whiz, which probably means I have to eat it.
That is the line. If you're drawing the line, if you're drawing the line there, that's where the line shall be.
God damn it! Why am I telling you this?
And it's so funny that you say this, because I think I've told you before, I am obsessed with cheese.
All right, so you know exactly how to mess with me.
I love it. There is not a cheese you could put in front of me that I will not eat.
All
The
right.
stinkier, the better.
Here we go. I mean, I literally might yak.
Swiss or
Vomit.
Jarlsberg are the only ones I don't love. Like, I'm not a huge fan of those flavors, but every other cheese I like.
Okay. Well, enjoy, guys. This is what you're gonna get to see.
And it's funny
after the Super Bowl.
And it's funny because
we're going all the way through the playoffs.
Right,
We've
exactly.
got it.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
go. Yeah. Well, this will be deferred to after sometime in February. But,
Right.
But it's interesting. It's kind of like antithetical to me as someone who is half Iranian, because my cousins and my relatives will. A raw onion is like a side to like kebab or like certain things like that, and they eat it like an apple.
I mean, I literally just had a salad with chopped up red onions in it, and it's probably my favorite part of the salad. When I get one in my forkful, I'm like,
Wild. Makes me shudder.
All right. Well, then it's decided. Thank you, Zeke, for that, I guess. But
Yeah, we guess. I can't wait. Either one. Even if I lose, I'm gonna have a great time.
and then maybe we'll do a little sweetener, and I'll wear a Cowboys jersey for
or
one episode,
I'll wear
and he'll
I'll wear a Pats jersey,
Pats
Brady
jersey,
or something.
yeah. So we'll
But there's one lying around here.
we'll do that too, I think.
And before we get to it, I just wanted to clarify something. Ryan Suter is on the Dallas Stars now, and Zach Parise is on the New York Islanders now. Excuse me, that would not affect the Wild this year. But I more mean the legacy of the two contracts,
Yes,
as opposed to them being there. But
100%.
just wanted to acknowledge that.
Right. I had something in my mind where I was like, that's not. I think he's Parisian on the island.
Yeah, I think the Wild at some point were just like, we have to
unload
stop
this.
this.
Right.
This cannot continue.
Yeah. Don't even worry. Don't even worry. We're juggling a lot here, and it's just the two of us talking crap. So.
As it has been essentially all week.
Yeah.
We've done 4 shows together, just us two, between MR and ESPN.
Yes, it's we've been practicing. All right, so let's get to our picks, and then we'll get out of here. So as I mentioned, Bradley and I are tied. I started off 3-0, was feeling myself, thought things were going to go my way, but no. Bradley has come roaring back, and he had just 2 victories this weekend by the skin of his teeth, and I had a loss by the skin of the damn Seahawks' teeth. They lost by a touchdown. I had them +6, and they looked like they were going to win that game for a long period, but I think the Seahawks defense is really bad, and that's part of the situation here. And I might not learn my lesson, and I might be betting against the Saints again this week. But this is some of the results. Bradley covered by 0.5 points in that Browns game because they lost by 2, and then he covered by a point, meaning
like the razor thinnest backdoor covers for both of those games.
the Bengals only lost by 2 points. So it just. The Steelers pick is inexcusable. I'm never betting on them again, aka, for the foreseeable future. The Seahawks pick, I still think my thinking was correct, even if the outcome was not right. And the 49ers pick was the one I felt most confident in, and then they ended up destroying the Panthers and getting Matt Rule fired. So the Lions pick, Bradley, that was your most suspect one. And then
I should get a punishment for that pick alone. It should start now. getting blanked 29-0 by Bailey Zappi was just absolutely unacceptable stuff.
Well, the Pats got that run game going.
Oh yeah. It's not even right. It's not even necessarily they needed Zappi a whole lot. Just like Ramondre Stevenson and others were just running roughshod over the Lions.
Right.
That defense is just atrocious.
Woo.
It is just like a sieve. Like it's a bunch of turnstiles in the run game. It's crazy, and especially surprising relative to last year because that was the feistier unit for the Lions last year. The offense was creative, but it wasn't as fun, and there wasn't as much firepower as there is this year. Like as we were talking about before, like I feel like we were kind of thinking, like Aaron Glenn, the DC for the Lions, former player, like he might be getting some offers because of like coaching up a better defense. Now it's like Ben Johnson, the OC, is the guy. Not everyone's like, what the hell is going on with this defense outside of like Aiden Hutchinson and Jeff Okudah, their quarterback, who's,
I don't
even
injured. Think Okudah is very good either, in my opinion.
And he's hurt too. So who's to say it might even and he's a holdover from a different administration too.
It seemed like that pick was like they couldn't trade out of the 3rd overall pick. So they were like Okudah, but he wasn't. I think there was some mixed analysis of him as a prospect, regardless. But all right. So this is who we've got coming up this week, and And Bradley and I have one shared pick here, and it's going to be the Jaguars against the Colts. Let's start with that and talk about why we feel the way that we do about this upcoming game. For me, it's pretty simple. I think the Jaguars defense is better than the Colts defense, and I think their offense, despite not having a good past 2 weeks, is better than the Colts offense. The Jags defense has more star power, and I believe that Shaquille Leonard is still out with a broken nose and a concussion. He might be playing, but can we check that there? Shaquille Leonard, who I still have to tell myself,
It's not Darius Leonard, yeah.
that's not Darius, because that was his middle name, and he was like, I actually hate going by that, so please don't call me that anymore. But either way, I even with Shaquille Leonard playing, I'm not sure that moves the needle for me too much.
No, this team is really bad.
Right.
Like, very, very bad.
They lucked into a win on Thursday Night Football against the disgusting Denver Broncos, and
squeaked one out in, like, a frankly, like, anomalous performance from the Chiefs. Like, they are bad. They are, like the Colts, the Chiefs do not lose that game if they don't miss a field goal, muff a punt, and like lose a few fumbles or whatever the case may be. It was a disaster in terms of their special teams and other things. It will probably won't happen again. So yeah, I'm shocked, frankly, even though the Jaguars did not look good against the Texans this past week. I'm still surprised they're dogs against this Colts team.
Yes, so, and they've also had success against the Colts just generally. They knocked the Colts out of the playoffs in Week 17 last year.
That's right. The Colts have some kryptonite, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars seemingly.
Yeah, and so I mean, I just for me that stood out when I was looking at some of the lines. This I was trying to see they won against the Colts earlier this year, so they're playing them again. They won 24-0 at home.
Right.
So. Look, I guess if I thought the Colts had a revenge game in them against the Jaguars, I would pick the Colts, but I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, that's not looking like that. The offensive line has looked so bad, and so bad, especially given what they've invested in the line and what they have in the line. Matt Ryan looks many steps slower than he even did last year when he was playing.
He's going to get crushed by that defense and Trevon Walker.
Yeah,
and,
that's
Josh
another
Allen.
thing too, right? It's just like this also just does not seem like a good matchup for him in particular, and they're completely underutilizing and not even prioritizing Jonathan Taylor when healthy. Like when he is able to play, he is not. They have, like what's been crazy is they were obviously down to like their third string running back because I think Zach Pascal.
Naheem Hines, I started him in fantasy. He had a concussion right on either the first or second series, and it was like on Thursday Night Football, he stood up and was wobbly and had to be held up, and you're like, okay, after last Thursday Night Football, he should be out. 100%.
Of course, but they're not. They're absolutely not going to risk it.
Not bringing him back in
yeah.
after Russell, the situation with Russell Wilson.
So their third string running back Phillip Lindsay was in there in that Broncos game. But all that is to say is even when Taylor was running the ball, they weren't looking good in the run game.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, Taylor being back, or whenever Taylor comes back, it's going to look much better. They don't look good with any running back.
Right.
It's and they're a lot of their offense is funneling through the late round tight end Jelani Woods. Like that's like who they're mostly going to, like Mo Alley Cox. It's like it's just not.
I don't know why they don't feature tall white boy Alec Pierce more.
Yeah, Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman. Like I mean, I know he's been a little banged up as well, but it's just like there's not a whole lot of excuses there. And also it's a Gus Bradley defense. Like it's cover 2 every single snap. Like it's just there's nothing interesting or creative about this team. Like I'm not saying the Jags even were looking much better coming out of the Texans game, but still, I'm kind of surprised that they're +2.
Well, they struggle. Look, the Jags struggle to stop the run with Dameon Pierce, but I don't think Indy can run the ball in the way that people necessarily associated with them with that line. So
I agree. I totally agree.
That was what stood out to me there. Now. I'm picking the Bengals in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's return to the Superdome in Louisiana, where they won the national championship.
Oh, gosh, right. I didn't even make that connection. That's crazy.
Now, I can't stand the way that Zach Taylor has been conservatively calling plays. I saw Chris Sims posted the route tree of what Jamar Chase actually runs, and it's just embarrassing how there's just very little creativity in the way that they try to set him up to get the ball.
We need like an ESPN like nemesis list.
Yeah,
With
Zach Taylor's
down.
growing on there after Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's Russ, it's Zach Taylor.
it's Mike
Tom
McCarthy.
Brady. Yeah.
Although Mike McCarthy's like actually oddly having a good year so far.
Yeah,
which
and
is
it's
bad
almost
for
more
my agenda.
right. It's almost more like pity there too before this recent Cowboys run, but now we can get back on there because he's succeeding again.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I just feel like I think the New Orleans defense is really overrated. I think the Bengals are desperate. They have been really close in games, losing within a touchdown or a field goal on the other side of things a variety of times. I just think they're way more talented in quarterback play and weapons because New Orleans is banged up, but even healthy, I think that the Bengals' weapons are better. And I just think that they're going to be able to make one or two plays to steal one and get them on the right track in a competitive AFC.
And frankly, honestly, like I think if the Bengals lose this game, there are going to be some tough questions.
Oh,
because just if you just look at it on paper, the Saints team, especially with Jameis not fully healthy, this team is not by
Andy Dalton revenge game.
Yeah, maybe that might be maybe the red rifle might come in hot potentially, but other than that, just on paper, the Saints roster is not as talented as the Bengals roster.
No.
And if they can't take this one, I think there's going to be a lot of questions not only about Zach Taylor but just about the offensive line. I mean, something has to change.
Yeah.
I mean, you sign Ted Karras from the offseason, you sign Alex Kappa in the offseason, you sign La'el Collins in the offseason, keep Akeem Adeniji and keep Jonah Williams, but these guys are looking worse than they did last year.
What is up with the offensive line coaching and
That's the other thing too. Like, how that guy, whoever, I need to actually look up who this person is. That is the Bengals offensive line coach, but there's got to be some questions about what's going on because it's another kind of reverse here too. Not necessarily reverse, but still the defense is looking better coached and still is looking more talented or at least more aware than the offense is.
Well,
with
Lou
Joe Burrow,
Amarillo's-
Jamar
yeah.
Chase, and freaking Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. It's
Lou
crazy to me. And Joe
Amarillo
Mixon. It's
he's-
crazy to me.
Lou Amarillo is the adult in the room. I can't imagine that Zach Taylor commands respect in that locker room. Seriously. I mean, look, they went to the Super Bowl, but for me, that was just riding on Joe Burrow's talent and the hot hand and the connection between him and Jamar Chase. I'm hoping that they have a bit of deja vu about their college time together, and that's what happens in this matchup. So
Frank Pollock is the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line coach.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't.
All right,
I
but
don't
call
know.
him out, and
Yeah.
he's definitely on our enemy list.
Yeah, we'll put him on there too.
All right, Bradley. So Minnesota -3. That's what you've got. Oh, I have Cincinnati -2.
Yeah, right. Okay.
You're up. Minnesota -3 against Miami.
Yeah, I just am thinking if this is kind of contingent on if Tua's not playing, and even if Tua is playing, I'm just skeptical that he's going to be fully himself after such a serious traumatic injury that he sustained.
It seems like I just saw the news before we went on air that they are starting that third string quarterback.
So if they are starting Skylar Thompson, I think this line is is even a little generous to the Dolphins because I feel for the guy, Skylar Thompson. He's a 7th round rookie out of Kansas State. He, especially in the Jets game on Sunday, Teddy Bridgewater sustained his own head injury that they were obviously also being super careful about when the Jets got that safety. Basically on it might have been the second snap of the game. So it wasn't even as if like, oh, Skylar Thompson comes in for a quarter. He was playing the entire game and he probably wasn't getting team reps during practice. He'll obviously, if that's the case that he's starting, he will obviously get more of that going into this Sunday, but he's a third string rookie. I just don't. The Vikings have not been able to get nearly as much pressure as I thought they might have been able to with who they have on their defense. I just kind of think they will be able to. I think there's a chance that they can neutralize the weapons with a much less assured person behind center.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I it seems like they're waiting on concussion protocol for Teddy Bridgewater to see if he can return, but. That
would make it a little bit more fair, but I would still say if the Vikings can kind of find the magic that they find every like 5 plays with their receiving talent, with Justin Jefferson, with Adam Thielen, with KJ Osborne, like if they can use some of Kevin O'Connell's like kind of offensive trickery that we've seen, especially we saw it week 1, it's kind of not been the case since then, honestly.
Yeah.
And if Kirk Cousins can just like not mess up like in the worst ways possible at the worst times possible, I think this could possibly be a good hit, but we'll see. We'll see if Teddy plays, and we'll see if Reek and Waddle can actually get something going with their third string rookie quarterback.
Who is more fraudulent at 4-1, Minnesota or New York Giants? I think the Vikings.
I think the Vikings only because I think the difference is the expectations for the Vikings were higher, and they've looked worse as a 4-1 team.
They seem just very lucky to be 4-1.
That's the thing, though, is it's not even
since that awesome, week one.
The week one game was the really only one that I thought was fully impressive, essentially front to back. The other ones, the other 3 wins that they've had, I've not been super impressed by them.
Yeah,
and I would only say that too because I say that based off expectations, just like. We were not expecting the Giants to be 4-1. We were not expecting them to look this competitive, and they're doing it anyways.
Yeah.
With who is de facto probably the best wide receiver in the league, this team shouldn't look fraudulent.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah. I mean, they do. I think I agree with you, even though I would say they have more talent than the Giants.
No, but I think that's why I say it is because they have much more talent. The Giants are rolling. The Giants, especially given their injuries, are rolling out like kind of anonymous receivers, people we didn't really know a whole lot about before this year.
Yes.
And they were still coming out and looking competitive. Like the Vikings just do not seem to have the 4-1 just doesn't make any sense because I'm almost like, how did you win those games?
Right. Like, I mean, one was against the Lions, one was in London, and one was a beatdown of the Packers early where they rolled out their new offense. So, it's I'm in agreement with you. I do think, just because I trust the coaching of the Giants more than I trust the coaching of the Vikings. So I agonized.
This was the tough third one
over this third pick because I think Buffalo could win this game easily, right? And it's a bit of a coin toss. No pun intended about their last meeting, where Buffalo totally got screwed over by that coin toss.
That seemed intentional.
Right.
From you.
And so I'll be honest, guys. Another coin toss, maybe a 3-sided coin, if that makes sense. I was deciding between New York Giants +6 against the Ravens at home, but I couldn't do it because it's the Ravens and because the Giants are coming from London. And Tampa Bay -8 against the stupid Steelers who've ruined my life this year. But that extra point made me scared. I worry about the Tampa Bay Bucks and their propensity to kind of stall out recently in the red zone. And so I just wonder if 8 points is too much and if they might just be winning by a field goal or a pair of field goals. Patrick Mahomes has never been a home underdog. I would guess that he's pissed. And that the whole team is ready to go against Buffalo at home. Buffalo's look like the better team, no question about it. But they're at home. They're 2.5-point underdogs, which means on the neutral field they'd be 4-point underdogs. And that seems wrong to me, given what we know what Kansas City can do. So I'm going with my gut, and I'm going with just like the overall narrative about Kansas City maybe just not being the sexy pick and still showing the world that they are one of the 2 best teams in the NFL, the other team that's the best in the NFL right now. Although, the Eagles are up there in the top 3 too.
I definitely I see where this pick is coming from for sure because of what you were saying, and also I'm in
agony about it.
It's tough, but I also just think like there's always sometimes a little bit, as we've been discussing before, especially with that Colts game, like there's just like, there can be like some kind of insular like panic amongst NFL fans or amongst NFL media being like, oh, like, is this the year the Chiefs aren't good, or they lost a step? Is Mahomes lost a step? Is Reed lost a step? And then they go and hang 41 points in the best defense in the league at that point in the season. So like, I just think there are many outcomes obviously possible with this game. But if this game is down to the wire like it was in the semifinals of last year's playoffs and the Chiefs win, it wouldn't surprise me one iota. And I of course think it's possible that if the Bills just have it going, their offense is running on all cylinders, and the safety play is as it's been with like kind of Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde if healthy, like essentially just like glomming on and gluing on to each receiver, making it much harder for Josh Allen or the run game to have to get something going. I'm sorry, for Mahomes in the running game. Excuse me. I could also see obviously going the Bills' way, but I just think this is going to be. I can see this just being a really close game. This is two evenly matched teams in my opinion. I don't think there's a huge gap between the two.
Yeah, I just what Kansas City sometimes decides not to show up, and
that's the thing.
And they're going to show up for this game. I know that they're going to show up for this game,
and I just don't foresee any semblance of like a special team snafu or multiple like that happened in the Colts game. I think the Colts game is an anomaly.
Yeah.
And so I just think this could be close, and I could definitely see the Chiefs asserting themselves again and being like the Bills still can't beat us.
Right, exactly. All right, now for our final pick here, Bradley, you have the Seahawks plus 2.5 at home.
I sure do, because the Cardinals are bad. And I understand that the Seahawks.
I almost took the Cardinals.
I understand. Oh,
but then
really?
I saw it was in Seattle, and I was like, no, because I thought they made strides last week.
No, they certainly did. Like the offense and the defense. The credit to the defense. Honestly, they relegated the Eagles, who were the only undefeated team left in the entire league, to 20 points. Vance Joseph has done a good job with this defense, that doesn't have a whole lot of talent on it, and JJ Watt has not been fully healthy this season either. Like, they have kind of some like these interesting, odd blitzing packages that they do a lot. They're a very aggressive defense that can kind of get people out of sorts. Like I totally see that, and I'm not discounting it. And like you were saying too, I think that the offense even looked a little bit less stagnant, a little bit less like, Kyler, go change the game for us, please. However, if Geno Smith continues to play the way that he does, and if he continues to be as accurate as he is, and just kind of puts his receivers and running backs and whatever the case may be into a position to succeed, if Rashaad Penny can get something going on the ground like he's been able to, I think the offense will keep them in this. And if the defense can literally just not be the worst defense in the league, I do think they have a chance against the Cardinals. So I think it might be 2.5 might be a little bit higher than I'd like it. I would maybe like it to be like a little closer, maybe like a +1. But I just think the Hawks can take it to the Cardinals with Geno and how this offense.
Geno's played great.
Yeah, he's been playing great in the scheme. The offensive scheme looks sound. It doesn't just seem like Geno's.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
right?
It's shocking. Like.
Look, I was convinced even years before I was like this insane Russell Wilson hater, and it's almost become so overwhelming that I kind of feel bad for him, but at the same time, not really.
Nemesis list.
But it's the horseshoe theory for my Russell Wilson hatred.
It's so strong it just becomes like, oh, I almost feel pity now.
Yeah. So it's just, but you kind of just see like maybe he was holding that offense back. Like maybe he was, because with Geno Smith's size, and he has a strong arm, and seemingly the team actually likes him. I think that the Seahawks are an interesting team this year at the very least. So, those are our picks, man. It's getting.
Sorry. Quick update from the YouTube chat here. Looks like Penny is out for the season.
Since when?
A few hours ago, the field goals over at SB Nation, the Seahawks blog, he had successful surgery.
Wow.
Because he broke his leg, so he's there were fears of additional damage confirmed Monday, and that the injury requires season-ending surgery. That is a really, really tough blow for that Seahawks offense, and a huge bummer for Penny, because he was looking so fun. He's such a good athlete. He deserved these chances that he was getting. That sucks.
It really sucks.
Still thinking Geno can do what he can do with Lockett and DK still there and still healthy. If the Will Dissly connection can continue, I still think it's possible. But that's certainly a variable going into my third bet as well. But We'll see.
All right, guys. Well, those are our 3 picks. We'll be tweeting them out, and it's heating up here. Tied up.
Yeah, it's
we could not be more mediocre in like 7-1 each of us. at this point in the
The
season.
underdog and the road dog are kind of diverging from their monikers because I did pick a fave for the first time in 5 weeks. But
Oh, whoa.
yeah, I'm trying. I'm selling out a little bit, but we'll see if it works out. If it doesn't, never again. It's not
Never
happening
again.
for the next 12 weeks. Mark me.
All right, guys. We're going to read some IMs and then we will get out of here. Packer Craze, happy to hear that Bradley's a fellow cheese lover. I know who I'm backing to win this competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Cheeseheads.
something when I tell people that I don't like cheese, they like literally lose respect for me, and I watch them get actively angry at me in real time. Josh in Omaha, Von Miller is the X factor when it comes to Kansas City. I understand that, but Mahomes is an elite scrambler, so that's the thing. Havana syndrome. Hey, Emma and Bradley, I haven't been tuned into sports in some time because my teams, the Dolphins, Marlins, and Heat, were either losers or not that fun to watch. If I want to get back into watching sports for the sake of being purely entertained, who do I follow? Football, baseball, basketball. I mean, definitely, I would say probably not. The Marlins must be a hard team to root for.
Yeah, but Jesus Luzardo, signed him from the A's. He's a great pitcher, but they are bad. They are many years away from competing. So I understand, and they're in one of the best divisions in baseball with the Mets, Braves, and Phillies. So it's a tough division. So
Yeah.
I understand that. But honestly, the Heat are fun. The Heat are a
fun,
great
yeah.
team. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry,
And the Dolphins are very fun.
Yeah, and the Dolphins, when everyone's healthy, will still end up with Mike McDaniel kind of making that offense a little bit more ambitious and fun to watch. Like I think you'd stick with the Dolphins and stick with the Heat. But for baseball, I mean, I think people have to worry a lot less about being oh, I'm a bandwagon fan. Watch good teams. Watch a fun team if you don't have a team.
Yeah.
Watch the Dodgers. The Dodgers are great baseball. Watch the Padres. Watch. Don't watch the Braves. Fuck the Braves. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, I would.
Pardon me.
Of those three, be a Padres fan. That's more.
The
fun.
Braves are really like an amazing baseball team. So I
know it's
I'm
a
just-
entirely racist fan.
No,
like,
of course.
Organization.
I actually wish they weren't. It's the same thing with the Astros. I just wish they weren't so good.
But the Padres are fun, and now you
Padres
get to
are very
root for
fun.
Juan Soto.
Yeah, root for the Padres. Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Jay Cronenworth, Trent Grisham. Great guys. Great.
Yeah, fun.
Joe Musgrove with the shiny ear.
Eric Geisey, Emma, I mentioned last week to you an article in Quillette about trans women in disc golf. Well, Jennifer Castro, who was mentioned in the article, was recently on Megyn Kelly's show talking about trans women dominating women's disc golf, which of course they aren't. Does the left have a good response to this kind of fear mongering?
Point out the losers. I'm sorry to say, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. I'm saying like trans athletes are also there. Not every trans athlete is the LeBron James of their sport. They are just middling or good or okay at their sport.
Yeah.
Like it is cherry picking and completely intellectually dishonest to say that every trans athlete goes into their sport and immediately dominates. It does not happen.
Does not happen.
Casper Semenya, Google Casper Semenya, who was not allowed to participate in the Olympics. She was not winning every single one of her track races, and she still was not allowed to compete.
Packer Craze. I hope Snyder finally gets booted and he actually does reveal all sorts of dirt on those other wealthy ghoul owners on those way out, but be the one slightly positive thing he ever does. Good point.
Like Regina George and Mean Girls with the burn book.
Right.
Just she realizes her position is over, so she just starts throwing all of the
Jerry Jones.
Yeah,
like,
all of the
this
shit.
Girl is a fugly slut.
Jerry Jones.
Aaron is not cool. Also, can we start brainstorming the duo name like something in the VIG? Sure. Aaron is not cool. Also says
Dirty Brad in the VIG.
Dirty Brad. We're not doing that. We're gonna
What's
think more about it.
Do you know? Do you remember the Parks and Rec radio?
Yeah.
Crazy
like,
Ira and the douche.
Like,
the douche.
And then just like a million toilet noises.
Yeah, right. It's like a fart noise on the soundboard. Yeah.
And the final IM of the day. Did I say this already? No, wait. I'll do two more. Brennan from Kentucky. Hot take: if Bama doesn't have Bryce Young, Tennessee beats Bama by double digits. Even with Bryce Young, Tennessee covers at the +7 at the most raucous Neyland Stadium in my lifetime. Woo! Will from Indiana says, I just have to say fuck those NHL odds for the Cup. All right. I don't even know what you're you're
the
St.
Blues.
Louis
Yeah,
fan.
yeah. I will say to that other IMer about Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, another guy to keep an eye on for any college football watchers is the Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker. He is very, very fun to watch, and kind of in the Levis Richardson mold. And that he's a big arm dual threat. He's a savvy runner. Like he's very fun to watch. And Tennessee for a long time, of course, has been a laughing stock and has been kind of like the choke artists of the SEC. So like he's been a breath of fresh air. That he's
Oh,
been
that's
very
cool.
very kind of like a fun player to watch beyond also being very skilled. So
Well,
definitely
I'm sorry,
look out
guys.
for that.
If you're an NFL GM and you're not drafting someone with a big arm, go do a different sport. Because let's look at the. Oh my God, we have to go. But like, let's look at the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. Fine. Put Tom Brady in there, who also has a rocket arm. Justin Herbert. They all have strong arms. Stop drafting weak game manager arms in the first round. It makes no sense. That's why
it's ceiling. Like you should try. I mean, in the sense of like I think it's of all of the positions. I think you always want. I think taking a big swing on a quarterback is always better than thinking, oh, like let's use a high pick on a guy whose ceiling might not be as high.
Tua. And the final IM of the day. Aaron is not cool. As a hater myself, I respect how Emma does love to hate. Yes, I do. All right, guys. Great ESVN OT. We will see you on Monday. Hopefully, I do well this week.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
And
everyone think about cheese.
No. Everyone think about bell peppers.
Just juicy red
They're
onions.
so crunchy, especially when you dip them in hummus.
Oh, defiling hummus that way.
I'm sorry. I totally stepped on your Middle Eastern roots.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right. See you guys on Monday with a new episode of ESPN.
Bye-bye.
Bye.